Sounds great. So, oh my goodness, I've been looking forward to this all morning. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our first moderator for our panel, the Power Panel, the Global Challenge. So Dr. Diane Janosek, who Debbie mentioned earlier, she's a dedicated cybersecurity leader, board member, author, and sought-after speaker, who is also the first executive director of Capital Tech Center for Women. She served as a member of the United States Defense Intelligence Senior Executive Service in leadership roles at the National Security Agency, to include her role as legal counsel at both the White House and the Pentagon. Diane is the CEO of Janos LLC. Leveraging her law degree and PhD, she focuses on the intersection of law, policy, and technology. She can be seen in Women Know Cyber documentary and on television and radio, including ABC and CBS, and has published dozens of cyber, legal, compliance, and leadership articles. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Diane Janosek. Woo! Thank you. You did a great job. Great job. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning, everyone. I see so many amazing faces, all my friends and my peeps and all the best people ever. And then I got the best panel from around the world, literally from around the world. So I'm Diane Janosek, and I could just give you a quick shout out. I started my own company just this year. So my name is... So I sponsored the lanyard, so that's what you see, little Janos on the lanyard there. That was my first thing I've ever done as a professional company, sponsoring an event. And I had my first intern, Lexi. She's a cybersecurity engineer here today from the University of Delaware, a freshman with her father who drove her down. Say hello. And we're even publishing our first article, coming out like just any week now, on cybersecurity privacy for teenagers. So yes, so thanks to Lexi and I, we'll be doing that. So over to this amazing panel all about the global challenges. As I said, we truly have an international panel today. We have from Ireland, she's Dr. Mary Aiken. She's actually in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia right now, but she's actually based out of Ireland. Hello, Mary.
Hey, hi.
Hello. So let me read her bio real quickly for you. She's, as I said, she's in Riyadh. She's a world-renowned cybersecurity, cyber psychology expert. She's a professor of cyber psychology and chair at the chair of the cyber psychology program at Capital Technology University, my alma mater. Dr. Aiken's a distinguished leader. He's also a professor of forensic cyber psychology in the Department of Law and Criminology at the University of East London. She's a member of Interpol, a global cybercrime expert group, and an academic advisor to Europol's European Cybercrime Center, EC3, just to name a few. She is a SME for Hollywood. Yes, she truly is. Her book is all over the place. Television, she is often an advisor for many things on television and movies. She's an international bestseller. She was a top 50 women in GovTech and Asia Pacific region, and she's advised all over the world. And she focuses on the human and technology drivers of cybercrime. Hello, Mary, and welcome. Okay.
Hi, Diane.
And then we have somebody else who's also in London, but she's really based out of Singapore, Dr. Chelly. Hello, Doctor?
Hello, everyone.
Great, okay.
Hello.
She joins us from Singapore, but she's a distinguished figure in cybersecurity with a robust background in academia and the corporate sector. She has a PhD in telecommunications engineering and has had various prominent roles throughout her career, including CISO and cybersecurity advisor for multiple organizations. She's recognized for her strategic vision and leadership in developing comprehensive cybersecurity plans. She is also an entrepreneur. We can learn a lot from her. She's co-founded several startups focused on cybersecurity solutions and is a passionate advocate for diversity and inclusion in tech. Welcome, Magda. Great.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody.
And then we're also going to get to my friend Anita, who's from Italy. Yes, and she has a big heart, and her name is such a great name to pronounce in full. So, Anita, can you say your name as you always do with your great accent?
Anita.
No.
Anita Sciacovelli. The complete name is Anita Sciacovelli.
See. I knew no one wanted that job, just say her name. So she is a professor of international law at the University of Bari Aldo Moro in Italy. She's involved as an advisor in many European organizations and agencies, such as the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity out of Athens. She's a researcher fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, JISS, in Israel. She's with the Defense Innovation Office for the Chief of Defense Staff of the Italian Ministry of Defense, and the list goes on. She also helps with the Cybersecurity Warfare Commission, and she's the VP of Global Professional for Artificial Intelligence. That's actually an organization called GP4AI, and she teaches international law in Rome. She has done even more things in terms of protecting the rights of all of societies in transition. She is a well-respected individual, and we were able to meet a couple times already. The last time we met was up in Canada. So welcome, Anita.
Grazie, thank you.
And then we have two of my favorite people right here on stage with me. And Shimona Banerjee is from Toronto, from Canada. She came down all the way from up there north, so thank you for coming. So as I said, this is truly an international panel. She's the founder of MindShield and is a futurist cyber psychology researcher and entrepreneur aimed at developing products that build emotional intelligence, cyber resilience, and cognitive security. Her goal and her company's goal is to mitigate the risks to human cognition and connection in the face of exponential technology through innovation, education, and ethical technology. So as I said, she's the founder of MindShield, her own company, a forward-leaning entrepreneur in and of herself. So welcome. And last but not least, a colleague of mine, both from Capital Technology University, where she's an advisor. Dr. Sabari Gupta is a resident of Washington, D.C. She's the founder and CEO of her very, very robust company, Electrosoft. Electrosoft delivers comprehensive technology-based solutions and services supporting civilian and defense organizations in advancing cybersecurity postures, achieving digital transformation that propel mission success. She has been active in the information security industry for over 20 years and holds a PhD, MS, and a Bachelor of Technology degree in electrical engineering, and she has CISSP and CISA certifications. She is a frequent speaker, and she has authored over 40 technical papers and presentations. You can believe that. We've got including myself, 4 women with PhDs, and Anita with a law degree, and another almost going to have her PhD. So can you believe that? Woo! So we are going, oh my goodness. So we're going to get started. I'm old school with my paper here, but my questions are actually just going to be kind of what we see today, what we see in the future, and then sometimes what motivates these amazing women to stay in the field, keep giving back in the light of all these international changes, and the environment and the culture. So we are now going to get started, and we're going to have some fun. So I'm going to start right here on the stage with the two ladies here. We'll start with you, Sabari. What do you see as the prime challenge and opportunity as you navigate the cyber threat landscape from your perspective? And they're all going to be sharing their perspectives from where they kind of sit and where they stand, right, in terms of where they are in the world. So over to you first.
Okay, well, happy to be here. Good morning, everyone. So my perspective, let me just clarify. So our company, Diane, you talked about Electrosoft. For 20 plus years, we've been supporting the US federal government, both defense and civilian sectors, in a broader range of IT services, but really focused on cybersecurity and identity management, which is kind of you can say it's an offshoot of cybersecurity. So my perspective is pretty much the US federal government and the environment that supports the US federal government. So with that backdrop, so you asked what are the primary challenges and opportunities, or maybe it's a single one? Oh, okay. So from my perspective, what we work in, I think the cyber threats are everywhere, right? They're ever evolving, but what we see is that phishing is probably one of the biggest cyber threats, because it's so hard to kind of guard our employees and our organizations from phishing. And a lot of times phishing attacks, what they result in is credential theft. So basically somebody sends you a phishing email, you think you're going to a legitimate website and you put in your login credentials, and then lo and behold, it's not the legitimate site, it's some intermediary who's collecting your credentials, and now they're going to be logging in as you and getting your privileges. So in a sense, phishing and credential theft, kind of taken hand in hand, I would say is probably one of the most important cyber threats out there at this time. And in terms of opportunities, there are many, of course, just like threats are many. But so a couple of opportunities I wanted to mention. One is, we've all heard about multi-factor authentication, but I'm really excited about some of the newest innovative authentication technologies that are being developed at this time, like FIDO2, et cetera. Some of you may have heard of it, or passkeys, you may have heard of it in the news. But these are really nice, user-friendly, but strong authentication mechanisms that can help us, prevent, not get phished, for example. And another opportunity, I think, very big in the federal government is to do with zero trust architecture. Again, a big buzz phrase or buzzword, whatever you want to call it these days. A lot of mandates about zero trust and how federal agencies have to get on a journey towards zero trust. In simple words, what is zero trust? I've been in the cybersecurity space forever, it seems like, but traditionally, cybersecurity was all about like a perimeter-based defense mechanism. So you log in or you authenticate at the perimeter, and now you're an insider and you're considered trusted, so you can get to all the resources within the perimeter. But zero trust kind of turns that on its head and says that for every access, you have to verify who is the user, what device are they on, is the network properly secured, what data are they trying to get to, and what applications, et cetera. So it's a really different way to look at cybersecurity, and I'm really excited about the opportunity that it presents to secure the government. So I'll stop there.
Great, thank you. Sharona?
So I'm going to say something that,
Is your mic on?
No. Hello? Check. No? Hello? Can you all hear me?
Can you check?
Do you want to talk into my mic?
Check if this is on.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Got you. Okay. How's this? Thank you. So much support. Okay, so I'm going to say something that you guys have probably heard like 1,000 times already, but the solution doesn't really exist yet. And that is that social engineering is responsible for above 70% of all cyber threat. And the reason this is the problem statement is because as an industry in cybersecurity, we are extremely focused on infrastructure solutions to solve the problems of cyber attacks. But I come from a non-technical background. I come from the psychology space. I was a filmmaker, artist, so I have a completely unconventional way of, like, a route of coming into this industry. And I completed my thesis on trying to understand the impact of a life in the metaverse on psychological well-being, human cognition, and social behavior. And as I took that research forward, I entered the cybersecurity space. I realized how much focus and attention is going towards cutting-edge infrastructure solutions, but the problem still remains the same, which is the human mind, and the human is the weakest link in any security system. And solutions towards figuring out how to actually patch the vulnerabilities in the human mind still are a complete mystery. So one of the taglines of MindShield, which is my organization, is your brain doesn't have a password. And that is our problem statement. And this is a problem not just because of the severe mental health deterioration that we are seeing today that's being escalated by technology, but because the new frontiers that we are moving into that are going to take this problem to the next level. One of them being quantum computing. So we really talk about what does the post-quantum computing world look like, right? A quantum computer can essentially decrypt any encryption that is in binary faster than anything we have ever known. And so when that actualizes, and it's not really very far, what is our second line of defense? What happens when all systems are down? And the answer is right now, we don't really have a robust second line of defense. And the second line of defense, and the last line of defense, is the human. It's the user, it's the person behind the screen, the person designing the systems that need to build a certain paradigm shift, a certain form of mental resiliency that inoculates them against online manipulation. And I say online manipulation because social engineering, phishing, misinformation, exploitation, sexploitation, all of this comes under the umbrella of online manipulation, which is what MindShield is focused on finding solutions against. The other thing is we are going into a new frontier of technology, which is the metaverse. And right now, building our security systems in 2D, or like on the 2D screens, has a certain, it has its limitations. But in the metaverse, the amount of data we're going to be having on people, spatial, emotional, the amount of influence that we're going to have on people, because we can actually change their entire neurochemistry by putting them into an experience, right? How are we actually helping train our next generation to adapt to these technologies in a healthy way? That's the second problem. And it all comes down to the same thing. We still need to find solutions to build resiliency in the citizens of the country, and not just for cyber, to protect against cyber attacks, but to protect against something much deeper, to protect against radicalization, polarization that we're seeing, because this is also manipulation leads to us having a distorted sense of reality, right? Everyone has their own sense of reality, and it's so easy to, what we say, bring a country down to its knees without raising a single gun, and that's what's probably going to happen as we move into a global war, or if there was ever to be a third world war, or some people say we're already in it, it's controversial, but essentially it's not going to be nuclear warfare. Because it's a zero-sum game. So many countries have nuclear. It's going to be cyber. It's going to be psychological operations. And so we have to inoculate our citizens against it.
Thank you so much. So we heard about cybersecurity with digital management and authentication and zero trust. Then we also heard about manipulation, and almost to the point of, I'm not sure how I would characterize what you just said, but manipulation of the environment in terms of really could destroy the fundamental people who we are. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary next, if that's okay, since that's also her area of expertise. So Dr. Aiken, if you don't mind going next, that'd be great.
Sure. So just tapping into, and apologies if my signal comes and goes, I'm speaking from the Ritz Hotel in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, speaking at the Global Cybersecurity Forum here tomorrow. So effectively, talking about challenges, I think just to pick up on that point, what we know is that 90% of cyber attacks start with a phishing attempt, and 95% of cyber breaches are actually down to human error. So the point is, we've had 50 or 60 years of cybersecurity, and yet everything is getting worse. And the way to conceptualize this is that cybersecurity protects your data, your systems, and your devices. It does not protect what it is to be human online. And it's that conceptualization that has led to the development of what's described as the online safety technology sector, or safety tech for short. And the UK has led the way in this sector, being the first jurisdiction to conceptualize what can be considered as a spectrum of harm, ranging from bullying and harassment through to mis and disinformation, through to cyber fraud. And effectively, what this has led to is the development of a whole new sector dedicated to providing technology solutions to technology-facilitated problem, harmful, and indeed criminal behavior. And the point about these harms is that they have the characteristics of big data: volume, velocity, variety. In other words, there's a lot of it. And therefore, we need AI and ML solutions to tackle these problems. What we see in terms of social engineering is there's a great piece by McElhaney in 2016 who noted that this sort of intrinsic psychological nature of many cyber security attacks, that despite that, research into the psychology of these attacks was very limited. And the paradox is that most of the research into social engineering has been conducted by people in the discipline of computing rather than behavioral science. So there you go. No wonder we're not making much progress. And I dare I say it, you know, the behavioral sciences is dominated to a large extent by females. Computer science is dominated to a large extent by males. And so now you know, one of the things, just as an aside, Diane, is that, we have fought so hard for our rights as women, over, thousands of years. Ironically, we're now living in a space, in cyberspace, in a domain that has been almost entirely developed and constructed by men. And I think if more women were involved in that construction and more women now involved in the solutions, I think cyberspace will be a safer, more secure and better environment. So moving toward. So I suppose it's not so much about factoring the human into the cybersecurity equation, but factoring women into the cybersecurity equation.
Okay, well, that is the quote of the day. And we only just started the day like half hour ago. Okay. Well, thank you, Mary. And we're going to turn it over to Magda next, if that's good for Europe. What are your views of the challenges of today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fantastic feedback from our panelists. And I definitely, concur with the human aspect of it, but I think it goes even further. Like what we are seeing nowadays, and I will take a different perspective as an entrepreneur, what we are seeing nowadays is a very competitive and diversified, fragmented, chaotic cybersecurity space and market. So basically, we have a problem that we didn't solve is the human aspect, or basically the fact that humans always click on links, and we still manage to grow the cybersecurity market with new solutions every day. There are technological solutions that basically seem to require companies to spend more and more money for new tools that perhaps do the same things or perhaps are different, but they, in my view, are not fixing the real problem. It's like continuously patching holes, but the holes are still just there and expanding. So that's one thing. And then as we're talking about human aspect, and again, I'm not talking only about Europe. I lived in 5 countries and I traveled a lot by myself. And one thing that I have learned during my travels is how diversified the world is. And it's fantastic, but at the same time, it really makes you aware of how different the maturity level is between different countries, but between different societies, not only from the regulatory point of view, or basically the laws and regulations around privacy and cybersecurity, but as well around the readiness in general of the general public, of the government. We're talking about developed countries versus developing countries. They are not on the same level when it comes to cybersecurity preparedness and capabilities, of course, as well as resources. Now, this can be, looked at from, again, different angles. But the basic point is that as we are going into additional complexity into solutions, we are actually expanding as well our ecosystem. We need to look beyond just our own security controls and look not only at the third parties or vendors, suppliers, partners, even customers as a traditional compliance-based cybersecurity checkbox, but we need to understand the cultural aspect of it as well. And I see it in the cybersecurity due diligence when it comes to vendor collaboration. One company in a specific country will have a very different process than another one, for example, in a different countries. And I can be very specific. A country in the UK will have a very stringent due diligence before contract signing. However, a company in Asia might first look at the relationship and then perform a cybersecurity due diligence after contract signing. Now, we see here that the approach to risk is very different, and understanding of how that impacts the risk for the company is different as well. Again, at the core of it is the human aspect, because at the end of the day, the process is defined by the employees, so basically humans. So I think those two factors, first of all, the complexity of the cybersecurity model is still missing this real problem. Plus, the differences in readiness of different countries. There's a third factor that has been as well mentioned by the World Economic Forum, is the difference in technology literacy. We still, sometimes when we talk about cybersecurity, we talk about it thinking that everyone has access to the internet. Nowadays, it's not still the case, even though we are in 2024. There's still people that do not have the same technology. And that creates as well a very big gap in understanding how to use the technology, but also how to use it securely. Those people might be prone much more to social engineering, much more to phishing attacks and other scams online that might expose them and, of course, create additional risk to the companies, to the people themselves. So I think it's very much related to the human factor, or the challenge that I see is, I would say, more complex in terms of how many factors in an ecosystem and how interconnected we are becoming, and how various maturity levels, but as well digital literacy is impacting all of that security and as well resilience when it comes to a business operating, not even mentioning on the fact that security of nations and how those governments can actually protect themselves. And this is something related as well to how many different stakeholders are protections or just operations of companies and nations. So that is from my perspective. The opportunities, of course, is actually perhaps to come back to the fundamentals. I do that very often in business. You always need to find, again, the product market fit. And I think coming back to really the core problems would really help us. I really like the point of Mary about women weren't involved in the creation of the main tools. I definitely agree that the cyberspace wasn't as diversified as nowadays. We have, of course, a certain number of percentage of women, which is great, but it's absolutely not enough. But I do think that it played an important role. And I think that as a conclusion, we are in need to take a step back and really understand the problem, not keeping on patching problems just with new technological solutions.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, especially, as you said, you lived in 5 countries, and just your ability to see the differences and the maturity levels and sharing that. Thank you so much. So we'll let Anita and round it out for the panel.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. And I don't know whether it's in the United States, but in Europe, yeah, October is the month of the cybersecurity awareness. And so it's very important that the first day of October, we are talking about this problem. I want to shed a light on a wider and bigger picture that is what we're experiencing now in Europe is cybercrime, cyber attacks, and specifically ransomware. I know this is a big problem that we have on both sides of the ocean, and I remember that last time in Canada with Diane, we were talking about which is a threat landscape in the United States and in Europe. Also, as advisor of the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, we are diving deep into this and trying to understand not only which are the causes, which were in an excellent way highlighted by my colleagues in the panel that were talking about the human factor, and but also what can be done. Why this is important, not only because the cybercrime cartel is becoming, as a global income, more dramatic and more important than the drug cartel. And so this is, let us realize that when there are such important, costs from the business and income from the criminals, we should be very careful about this. But also because actually studying this in the academy and not only in other international fora, we realize that the blurring line between cybercrime and cyber war, especially if we consider the war, the ongoing war in Ukraine, is really dramatic. So I can tell you that Italy is not finding itself in a very good position because we are at the third or eighth place in the international classification about the as country to be target of ransomware, especially in the healthcare sector. So blurring the line, it means that some third countries, non-Western countries, are using cybercrime and targeting cyber attacks against a critical infrastructure all over Europe in order to have what we call an hybrid war. That is also strictly connected to the information warfare who was talked before. Which are the solution? What can we do actually? Because we don't like as women, first of all, to pose only problem and to talk about problem, but also to find the solution. One solution sure could be the working on the psychological aspect of cybercrime in order to help people and preventing what is happening. At an international level, it's very important that we start cooperation, and the United States already in 2023 had an idea of working together and to creating an international counter for countering ransomware, and of which 50 states are part of it. But the biggest issue, in my opinion, as legal, as working also as consultant for companies and critical infrastructure, is the big question is, shall the ransom be paid or not? Right. In Italy, we are talking about it following the UK example. The UK example has a law which does not forbid the payment of the ransom, but should be considered case by case if they should be paid. Because if we try to find a common solution about the payment, common amount, not only in the States, national law, but also an international law, international cooperation, this could be a sort of, a way to stop ransom, or at least to limit the damages. And this is what I'm working on, and I think it's very important that also companies should talk each other, trying to find a solution which is the best way. Because why Italy is such a high level, in the ransomware attack? Because we are a very good cook, but also a very good payer. And yes, we are. And I like very much before the joke about eating cats and dogs. No, we eat pasta. We solve the problem. We are politically correct. Anyway, we are a very good payer, and we all know that paying a ransom is not always a solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was good. So I love hearing all the different perspectives and the challenges that we have that we've heard from all the 5 panelists. But I do like the theme that the difference, what a difference makes. And I think that really is, I think that gender difference does make a difference. A family member recently just had a baby, and I was looking at the stroller, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're making these strollers so much better. There must be women now involved with the engineering, you know? And so we need that applied to cybersecurity, because women really can make a difference, I think, for sure in that. And then the other thing I was reminded of is that in terms of what a difference a woman makes, and which I think why Uniting Women in Cyber is so important to meet every year, is they said that, you know, a child's first image of God is looking at their mother's face, like just knowing that unconditional love, right? And they also said that, you know, it's also a female thing that they usually don't just learn for themselves, but they tend to help others, right? We pull people along and we really share what we learn. We don't just keep it for ourselves. And I think that's what we're learning from this panel today. So we're going to do, we have 10 minutes left, so every panelist is going to have 2 minutes. And I want them to share something on the positive side. We've heard so many challenges, right? With manipulation and phishing and identity theft, and I mean, it's just across the world in terms of the immaturity of the cybersecurity paradigm. Do you pay a ransom? Do you not pay a ransom? Just globally, there's so many challenges. And that could in and of itself be very, very daunting, right? Almost depressing, right? Especially when the females are a minority in this field. So we're going to do, the last round is what motivates you to stay in the field and what inspires you to make a difference. Because I want you to walk away from this knowing that all these women on this panel are incredibly accomplished. They've, you know, faced personal challenges as well as professional challenges, and they continue to make a difference, continue to share, continue to try to improve, and help our world. So with that, we'll start right here on the panel. We're from Toronto. We'll start with our Canadian panelist.
Okay. So right off the bat, what inspires me and why I'm even in this field is just as terrifying as it is, it's really exciting. Because we have all these problems, right? And no day is the same. And we have an opportunity to actually solve them because the solutions do exist. So even, you know, as all the panelists talked about, one thing we can all agree on, that the human error, like we need to start finding solutions to human vulnerability. And we can do that by like breaking the silos. Diversity, not just in gender and race, but also across industries, right? Like tech people need to be talking to people in psychology, behavioral science, neuroscience, even artists. Is something that we're really trying to bring in is making cybersecurity awareness training, or now what we call cognitive security, which is protection of the human mind, fun and engaging. So people actually want to do it, and it's not just about checking a box, and that it actually is retained. So bringing in artists, making immersive experiences, workshops, there's an opportunity to really change and innovate in this industry. We are so new, the technology is constantly evolving, and so the opportunities for anyone coming from any background is absolutely endless. So really excited to also invite and get to know people who are coming from different backgrounds to be part of this movement, because it's a collective community movement.
So let's see. So your question was what motivates me to be in this space and inspires me to continue. So, you know, I got into cybersecurity many, many years ago. I was working with more hardcore technologies, IT, networking, et cetera. So when I came across cybersecurity, or computer security as it used to be called back then, it just seemed like it added another dimension to a more traditional problem. It was a harder challenge in a sense. So that's what drew me to it many years ago. But what keeps me motivated now to keep doing what I'm doing is the fact that our company, actually, I mentioned we work for the federal government, for the defense and civilian sectors, that we help to keep our nations safe. I mean, you know, it feels really good to think that what we are doing day to day on the ground helps to keep each of our, many of our agencies safe, or safer from cyber attacks. And I'll say what inspires me to keep in this field, I'm an engineer, I'm a technologist, but I love that there's, again, endless opportunities. There's so many innovations that are coming up, new ways of looking at the problems that, as an engineer, it just fascinates me, and new problems to solve, right? That's what we are, problem solvers. So I'll end there.
It's great, and you're intuitive at it, which is amazing. So thank you for sharing that. So Magda, how would you like to close today on what inspires you to make a difference?
Well, I think every day, this was mentioned already, but I would like to add to it, every day is not the same in cybersecurity. And I really love that. It's a continuous learning, and that makes me feel alive, literally, because, it's not like doing the same task every day for 15 years. It's never the same. You need to learn every day. You need to get up to speed with the new technologies, the new risks that are there. And like I mentioned, the cybersecurity world is so fragmented that even looking at the existing solutions will take you months and months to understand how they work. So it's really fascinating. And in my view, this is something that definitely motivates me, keeps me going. And I would, from my background, I have done so many things. I went through traditional IT, I went through sales, pre-sales, business development. I really love discovering different domains. And I think cybersecurity is a very mature choice because it actually is never the same. I found it much less boring than any other domain, to be honest. And no disrespect to anyone working in something else, but I just found it different. And that learning, yeah, it's fascinating for me.
Great. Thank you. And my cybersecurity sister from Ireland.
Thanks, Diane. I think that, my work as a cyber behavioral scientist, mostly I work in areas dominated by males, in policing, in military, and in tech. And effectively, what motivates me is one, finding solutions, but also the fact that I'm a woman working at a high level in these areas. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we know about women is that when they're on boards, you get better decision making, you get more ethical and responsible outcomes. Women have better cognitive skills in terms of verbal fluency. And we're better at sending and receiving nonverbal social messages. Any woman in this room that can stop their husband or partner at 50 paces with a look will understand. So, the point about, the gender argument is, we want women to do well. And at the same time, the paradox and the dichotomy is that I don't want young women to feel at the point that they're getting into science or getting into industry to feel that somehow they're a second-class citizen. I want them to feel strong and empowered because you've got great skills. But also for me, despite, external appearances, I don't have a construct of gender when I'm working. I have a construct of performance. Mm-hmm. And performance is what has been the differentiator for me. And I'll just finish up with my favorite quotation. It's from Faulkner. And it's really about personal best. And Faulkner said that you should never compete with your predecessors. You should never compete with your contemporaries. The only person you should compete with is yourself. So this is what it's about. For women, it's about personal best. Be the best, and the gender piece will become irrelevant.
That's awesome. So our fabulous cook and our fabulous person from Italy, you're going to round it out for us and close out the day, the panel, I should say.
Let me be inspired as a law professor, international law professor, by the ancient Romans in Italy. So ancient Romans were the first to write. Before Egypt, I know, but also Rome was decided first law digest. So my inspiration when I understood how is composed cyberspace is, wow, that's great. There's no law, international law or European law or a national law written on it. And it's still a continuous working progress of writing, doing, studying, talking with persons of other countries to understand what are they doing in the United States, in UK, in Canada. And I find this is absolutely amazing because, as told before, my job is never the same one day from another. And so that's why I love it and I find it very, very inspiring. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Mary and Magda and Anita, Simona, Sabara. Thank you so much. And you know what? You inspire me. I'm here because there's energy in this room. It's palpable. You can feel it. It's just an amazing community to be a part of. So thank you for today. We're going to have the best day ever. Right, Debbie? Yep. Thank you, everybody. We're going to walk this